Your signal's the wrong size? Let's try make one the right size. Welcome back to Flint Hills. I'm Jeff, and in this video we're going to look at signals, and I'm going to attempt to make one. But before I go any further, I'd just like to do a little shout out to my daughter Chloe for my fantastic birthday present, which was this mouse mat. And so this is my first piece of Flint Hills treasure to keep. Now, I'll be the first to admit I'm no great cameraman, but I have enjoyed making these videos for YouTube and I'm learning a lot. But please bear with me, I'm still learning on the best cameras to use, and as you'll see, some footage seems to have come out better than others. Enjoy. I've decided to keep things very simple for myself at this stage, and I've just gone with dual aspect signals with the basic red and green. You would have seen in my other videos the oversized signals which I've got off eBay. They've done their job, so now it is time to get some more correct scaled signals to work. As you can see, this signal is more to scale. Looking around, the signals that I could see which were in the right scale were Gauge Master, Burco and CR signals. All these ready to run signals that I've just showed you come built as common cathode, which is okay if you're using a simple switch or a switch decoder which is designed for common cathode operation. However, I've purchased the DigiKeys 4018 switch decoder, and that uses common anode. Now you can purchase a common cathode to common anode converter which will help you resolve that issue so you can run those signals. Or you could make your own. So this is the kit that I'm going to make, which is the CR Signals KN01 2-aspect Engage signal. So let's have a look what comes in the kit. So as you can see, we have some wire that comes in the kit. We also have some the actual feet, the signal head itself, and we've got some resistors here. We've got some tubing. We have some brass bits to make up, and we also have the LEDs, which I've actually taken out the packet and I've just gently put them onto a piece of double-sided sticky tape so I don't actually lose them. The actual instructions that come with the kit are really well detailed and documented, so there's nice pictures with everything on, and there's also a little supplementary bit that comes with it, and does actually give you a nice explanation of how the LEDs work, and again a nice little write-up of how to actually install this. So before I get going building this kit, I just really want to test the LEDs. And what I do is I've just got a little 3-volt device here, and I'll just put these on the LEDs and I'll just check they work and make sure I've got them the correct polarity the right way around. Okay, so here's the two LEDs, and if I just put the live to one side, live to one side, neutral to the other, and that's our green LED, and again likewise the neutral, and there's our red LED. So I now know that this is the plus side and this is the minus side. So what I like to do first, before I do much else really, is just to get a little bit of super glue just on the sides where that's going to go. If I take my green LED and I put that into the signal head with some tweezers, she will go in nice and neat. There we go. Okay, and I'll put the red one in as well. And again, I'll just put a little bit of super glue around that to hold that in place. Okay, and just in case I have made a mistake, I like just to test them to make sure I have got them in the right way around. So with the LEDs in position now, I'm going to cut all these out and we'll start to assemble the signal. So I've now removed all the items from the moulding. One of the first things I'm going to do though is to actually just trim the actual main stem of the signal. If I take the ladders here and we just offer up the ladders, you can see that the actual tube is a lot longer than what the ladder is. So what I do is I'll just put a little mark on there and just trim that back so that's at the correct height before we actually go into the full assembly. And there you can now see where I've actually trimmed the post, and so it's at the right height to continue now with the build. So what I'm going to do now is just apply a little bit of super glue to our brass rod where it goes against the shoulder for the signal, and then likewise I'm just going to put a little bit of super glue there, and we rest that on there, making sure I've got a 90-degree angle, and I'm using my blue tack to keep it all nice and steady whilst that dries. So as soon as that's dried, we can start to put the wires in. So I've got my common wires I'm going to use, the black as, and I've tinned the end very slightly. So I'm now going to feed that one up through the signal head, and there we go. And because I'm going to make these as a common anode, as I said, I'm going to solder this wire across the two positive ends of my LEDs, and I'll take the other wires, bring those up, and I'll solder them to the red and the green LED there. So being the numpty I am and concentrating so hard on the soldering here, I completely forgot to switch the microphone on and the other video camera. So here I am just soldering on the black wire and just holding it there as it cools. So here's a close-up of the black wire soldered onto both positives, or the anodes. The red wire soldered to the red LED on the negative, and the green wire soldered to the green LED on the negative. So with all the wires now in place, let's just test everything to make sure it's still working. And we'll do the green first. Yep, that's good. And then we'll do the red. And that's working as well. So now we're in a position to actually now start to finish off the signal head and start getting ready to finish this off and get it mounted on the layout. Now in the kit itself, it explains to actually fill in the gaps around these lights, and they give you some clay. That's fine, no problem at all. What I tend to do though is I actually just give it a small lick of the some black nail varnish, and I just find that this just holds the wires all in place that little bit better as well. It's like secures it all in, and I can actually then stick the back of the signal onto that as well, and it just sort of like fills in all the gaps as we go, and then we just got to let that dry. Okay, so there's one signal head now mounted, and I've just got to let that dry. And as soon as that's dry, we can proceed with the next step. So this is now dried. I've actually glued on the underside of the signal, the platform stand. So now we can pull the wires through the base and put the signal into position on the base, like so. Okay, so that's now firmly in on the base. I can just make sure that's in. Yep, that's in. There's our wires coming out. There's our signal. I'll just straighten her up. And again, I can put a little drop of super glue on that now to hold that in place. What I've also done is I've glued the little man safe on top of the ladder. So now when that goes up against that, that will all be finished as well. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of super glue on there, bend those up, put the ladder on, and then we'll get ready to paint the signal. There we go. There's 1, 2 aspect N-gauge signal from CR Signals, all glued up together, and the wires all now attached. So let's go and paint this now, and what I'm going to do is give it a primer first, and then afterwards I'll give it a spray of some metallic paint to make it look a bit metal. But I will just mask off the front head because I want to keep that black. But again, if anything does blow through, then we'll just touch it up with a paintbrush afterwards. So let's go and spray this up. So I thought I'd just share with you what I've used here for painting this. I've used this primer, this super primer, because just to seal the plastics, and then I've used this Humbrol acrylic spray, and that is the silver metallic. And sometimes it's hard, I find, to get into all the nooks and crannies, so I spray a little bit into a container, and you know what, I use the old paintbrush just to brush it in, and it dries very quick. So yep, let's have a look at the results now. And here she is. I think it's a lovely looking signal, very pleased with it. As you can see, it's typically N-gauge, much smaller than the others, and the only thing now left to do is to get it installed on the layout. All I've done now is I've actually connected up the resistors. Now a lot of people will say to me, you can just put one resistor onto the common cathode or common anode depending on which way you're going, which is true. However, I prefer to do the 2 resistors which are supplied in the kit onto each of the signal leads. And there is an advantage of doing this because not all LEDs give you the same brightness. So when I test this, if for instance the green is a lot brighter than the red, I can actually change the resistor, say up to a 10k, and that will dim it down. If the red's too dim, I can perhaps change this 5.6k to a 1k resistor and make it a little bit brighter. Okay, so by putting the two on, it gives me flexibility here of how I want to adjust the brightness of each of the individual LEDs. That's just my personal preference. Now, once we've installed our little signal, we could use just switches to operate this. However, I'm going to use the DigiKeys 4018, which is actually a DCC switching decoder. And on this particular decoder, there's 16 outlets, as you can see there, 1 to 16, and obviously each light uses one of those. So I'm going to set this one here, which will give me 8 sets of signals, 2 aspect signals. So let's program up this to give us that result. So I've wired up the DigiKeys switch to the program track, and we'll switch it on. Okay, and we're now on. So I now need to program this to what I want it to do. So I'm going to be using this for these 2 aspect signals, and this is going to be starting from 41. So if I switch on program, I swing around here to the screen and we click on the turnout or signal, as I'm going to be using here, 41. Okay, that's now programmed that unit so it knows its first address on there is 41. So the next one will be 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, and lastly it'll be 48. Okay, one more thing I've got to do now is to program this little box to tell it it's actually going to be used for 2 aspect signals. Okay, so that's quite simple again. What we need to do now, press the program track, and again what we need to do is to program the CV settings. So I go into my program and it's 9999, which tells me it's configuring it, and it's going to be CV setting number 47, and that's got to be set to a value of 2. So if I write that now, that says OK, and now I'll turn that off. At which point now I'm going to wire up the signal and see if it works. So I've wired up the signal into the first port, just temporary for now, so we can just test it. And if we look across at the screen, we can see now I'm ready to go on number 41. Okay, so let's turn the power on and see what we get. Okay, we have a red light for a red signal. So if I now go across and click on green, it changes to green. Likewise, if I switch it to red, it's now at red. So that's all working fine. So I can now go ahead and install it on the layout, and then we can start to use it. So this is the position where the signal is actually going to be installed for the track that's running down there. So we're going to go ahead and get that signal installed. I've already pre-drilled the hole some time ago. So all we've got to do now is feed those wires through, and then we've got to the fun job of connecting it up. So I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I must say I had lots of fun in making it. And this little signal here is a great asset to this layout. So please like and subscribe to the channel and leave any comments below. I look forward to hearing from you. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.